Hi, this is Chris McCabe of ecommercechris.com. I'm an Amazon merchant account consultant, and I'm here with Leah McHugh. She'll be one of our speakers at the Seller Velocity Conference, which is July 24th in Seattle. Hopefully you're in Seattle, you can join us in person. We also have live stream tickets available. It's an afternoon event, right? We're talking about one of her areas of expertise, one of her many areas of expertise, Amazon listing compliance. And as you've seen, we've had a lot of cases where people didn't know they were making certain kinds of mistakes, and maybe they received a notification, maybe they didn't, but they got suspended because they hadn't caught it in time. So the Memorial Day weekend suspension fiasco that we went through, we went into accounts, you went into a lot of accounts, you saw a lot of different kinds of mistakes, and these are the types of issues we're going to be talking about in Seattle on the 24th. So I'd start with the ASIN variations. What were the main issues that you saw when you looked in people's accounts? Was it variation theme being used incorrectly?
Yeah, that's one of the mistakes that we see. ASIN variation misuse is one of the suspensions that we have very few cases where people actually know what they did wrong.
Right.
Most account suspensions, there's usually some idea of what they're doing wrong. Generally, when we're doing the ASIN variation misuse ones, people think that they're doing everything right, and they don't understand why they've been warned or why they've been suspended. So using the wrong ASIN variation theme is definitely a regular error that we see being made. Also using a theme that isn't quite right, so it may differ by color, but it also differs by something else, but you only have color as the variation theme. That's probably the most common mistake we see. And then there are things like accidentally turning a child ASIN into a parent ASIN, so then the listing doesn't make sense.
This will sound familiar to some of you, maybe not everyone, but sellers do tend to tell us, like, we know we've done this correctly.
Yeah,
80 to 90% of the time you get in the account.
that's usually how the
find,
call goes when we start working on their cases. And then I go into the account and find all of the mistakes that have been made.
Right. And I'm excited that we're including this in Seller Velocity because this lately has been a big cause of suspensions. We see a lot of warnings and suspension notifications that say you've incorrectly used variations. It's been going on for a couple of years, but wouldn't you say the last couple of months?
I mean, people have been doing it incorrectly for a long time. They really only started ramping up the suspensions for this maybe 6 months ago. And then the last month, it's just been, we've been working on a lot of cases for this.
So.
They've gone from just warning to suspending accounts.
Right. And we kind of have an ongoing theory about this. You know, before Q4, they used Q3 to clean up the catalog a little bit and to do some of these listing purges and send out these warnings. And we know a lot of sellers will say, but every other seller I see is doing variations this way. That doesn't mean, just because you see something incorrect live on the site doesn't mean you're doing it correctly.
Well, and I think also a lot of sellers are reporting each other. It's a very easy way to report a competitor because you can see it live on the site. You don't even need to place an order, and you can just report it right on the page, or you can go into Brand Registry or Seller Central and report it that way. So it's a really easy way for sellers to report each other, which I think is where a lot of these cases are coming from. And you actually see cases where they specify which information is incorrect on the listing, and those ones definitely came from a complaint. Yeah,
that's a paper trail or breadcrumbs that kind of show that this was used for anti-competitive behavior, which is one main focus of the Seller Velocity Conference. So what about bundles and multi-packs? That's a topic that comes up constantly. We're always getting people to either review their bundled items, maybe they've done it correctly, maybe they haven't done it correctly, they don't seem to know either way. So what do you see most often with those?
So the fun part about multi-packs is that the policy for that actually contradicts itself on the same page.
Doesn't help, right? Yeah.
So if you're a manufacturer and you're creating the multi-packs of your own products, you can list those as variations. If you're not the manufacturer and you're just taking a bunch of the same product and putting them together and selling them together, that can't be on a variation. That has to be its own separate listing.
Its own separate listing, right? And then there are people who are combining their products with another manufacturer, another brand.
And those are bundles, and bundles have their own set of rules. So you have to use the word bundle in the title. It has to say what's in the bundle in the first bullet point. It has to say that it's a bundle and what's in it in the description. And also those can't be listed as variations because generally speaking, they just won't fit into a variation theme.
Right. So do you think people just don't know what those policies are, or they read them and misunderstand them?
Both. I mean, the policy is intentionally vague. We've spent a lot of time looking at it and analyzing it. It's also split across multiple pages, so it's not like you can just refer to one policy to get all the information you need.
While you're doing it,
It's all over the place. So I think it's a combination of both. And also people seeing things live on the site, assuming it's correct and emulating it.
Right. So we want to save some of the good stuff that's sitting in your brain for the July 24th event. But one last thing for now. UPC's GS1, we talk about this all the time.
My favorite subject.
You've had conversations with the GS1 people.
I have.
You can tell us now. I mean, I guess they send a daily file
Yep,
of correct
so GS1
UPCs
confirmed that they send a daily file to
Right.
Amazon. Amazon is actively checking the prefix on
Right.
barcodes to make sure that they match the manufacturer of the product. So if you're using resold codes, those are not going to match in GS1's database. They're going to show the original owner.
Yeah.
So for example, I just saw a listing for perfume that was owned by Sal's Salsa. So that's a very easy way for Amazon to check that
Right.
that is not the correct
Doesn't
barcode.
make sense. And from a catalog perspective, it's a bad buyer experience. So obviously Amazon might not do a overnight purge and cancel millions of listings, but gradually they do tend to weed these things out and take action.
Well, and
on
it's
errors.
you're increasing the risk of duplicate listings, which is also a pretty common error that we see. If you're using the correct barcode, you can only list it once. If you're using a bunch of barcodes for the same product, then you're very likely, or somebody else is very likely to create a duplicate listing of that product, and
Right.
they don't want duplicates. It's not good for buyers, it's not good for Amazon, it's not good for anyone.
Not good for anybody, right? So
It also makes logistics harder.
Yes, of course, of course. So we'll be talking with Leah about these issues and more July 24th in Seattle. Hopefully you can join us in person. Go to sellervelocityconference.com for information about the event. It's 1 to 5 in the afternoon. We also have live stream tickets available. Any questions about any of this stuff, feel free to find me on my website or shoot me an email at chris@ecommercechris.com, and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. So hopefully you can join us one way or another on the 24th. It'll be great to see you
come
there.
see us in Seattle.
Yeah. And then if
Or
you're
in your
there-
pajamas if you do
yes,
the live
if you're there
stream.
in person, we'll find a good happy hour afterwards, and we can go over some more of your questions. But doing tons of Q&A during the event itself as well. So get your questions ready. Thank you.